Welcome to another Qualifier tutorial, and this time around, we're at Dragon Trail Seaside. And this is the Group 4 series, and I'm in the GTR. Pretty much it's like 1 4C and the rest are GTRs in the top 10, so unless you have one of them, you pretty much have no chance. And, well, it's pretty much GTRs in a race because they get off the line so caught picking good. Windfire can make a 4C work, but Windfire is also an alien, so probably you're going to want to use a GTR. If you don't have a GTR, sort of like the Northern Isle Qualifier, you're kind of out of luck. But, well, I'll show you how I did my lap in a GTR, which as of Thursday at about a little after 2 p.m. is 10th on the leaderboard, so still just barely a top 10, but a top 10 nonetheless. So I'll go ahead and show y'all how I was able to do my lap, and maybe, just maybe, y'all can do a lap similar, if not even better. So let's go ahead and get into it, folks. Remember about GTRs, it is pretty cotton picking stable. You don't really have to worry about too much of it doing something you don't want it to, because it's about the most stable car in the game. So you can throw it in hard and race it hard, and it'll do pretty much what you tell it to, so as long as you tell it to do the right things, it'll do it for you. So going to this turn hard there for going into your best lap, not necessarily on your best lap, but into your best lap. Go hard, go wide, so that way you can angle your car to go on the inside by the time you're over, so that way you can carry the most momentum out. And it is okay to run on the rumble strips bit here, just don't go in the grass. Again, this is kind of a toe to the line like a lot of the qualifiers are. You don't want to run in the grass, but you do want to run as close to the grass as possible, so that way you can carry the most momentum. So be careful there and run that on your own discretion. And then coming up to line here, just full throttle, easy bit here. And then by the time you're at the line, you should have a good lap going if you're running 120 once you hit that white line. Or if you're running even better, good for you. And that's in miles per hour, folks. Remember, this is English for the European, or really anywhere but American measurements. There's converters on Google and all that if you want to use them, but this is for American. For going into this first turn, make sure you're on the right side here. Start braking a little bit before the rumble strips. I've tested rumble strips versus not for braking, and it's sort of inconclusive because the rumble strips make your car kind of do weird things. And depending on how much you're on the rumble strips depends on what the car does. So it might be better to brake on the rumble strips, but it's much, much, much more consistent to not. So I think to be able to run consistent laps, don't brake on the rumble strips, because if you start trying to, you might end up learning bad habits or start overrunning it or what have you. So I think it's better to just use the track itself and not the rumble strips for braking. But into the first turn there, where you go about 60 miles an hour or thereabouts. Once you're to this apex, do use the rumble strips and start going full throttle once you're at the apex, and then start turning towards this apex here, which this is one of those that's kind of eye of the beholder again, but I generally don't use too much rumble strip on this turn, because the more on the inside on the rumble strips you are, the more likely the car is to lose grip. And this is about the grippiest car there is, so if this car loses grip there, all of them are going to lose grip there more likely than not. So for this turn in particular, probably don't use too much rumble strip. For the next turn though, all of the rumble strip that ain't in the grass is fine. I didn't end up using it there, so actually that's probably an area where I could gain maybe half a tenth or so, just running a bit more hard there, carrying a bit more speed. But not really all that big of a deal, because this ain't the biggest straightaway point, and the more speed you carry in here, the earlier after you brake. But for what speed I'm carrying in here, which is what's on there, brake a little bit before the rumble strips in there, which will get your car wove down enough to where this is kind of eye in the beholder too. Obviously, the later you brake, the less speed you can carry into the turns, and vice versa. I picked to carry more speed in the turns while braking early. So get as close to that wall as possible without hitting it. The rumble strips are okay here. They don't lose your any grip. And make sure you can carry a lot of momentum through there, so your car kind of naturally goes to these rumble strips. And for the next little section, this is a nice easy straightaway part to catch your breath, so I recommend doing so, because the next section is actually pretty caught picking hard. This next section here is banked, so it's not the easiest section to do. So in order to use the banking to your advantage, start on the way outside there, sort of carry momentum in by coasting more and using a little bit of brake, pretty much trail braking, which I ain't the best at. But I am sort of learning. If you're pretty much do it right, you should be on the apex about 102, 103. And you definitely do want to use that apex so you can get more momentum out. And then once you get more momentum out, turn towards this apex. For these turns, you want to use all of the rumble strips, because the more you go on the rumble strips, the more you can carry speed, and the more speed you carry will help you on the straight coming up. But for here, you do not want to go in the grass there. It ain't necessarily going to slow you down, but it is going to be a penalty. It's kind of ironic. Right here, no penalty. Literally, like, a foot out is a 5/10 of a second penalty. Probably even less than a foot. Probably right there is probably 4 or 5 inches. So yeah, that's literally a 4-inch difference between no penalty and a half a second penalty. And same for this turn. Don't go on the grass, but do get as close to it as possible. And then that should naturally carry your car pretty far out there to that apex. Don't go on the grass there. I don't think that's a penalty, but that will slow you down. And then this is a straight bit I was talking about. Once you're on here, full throttle to a little bit after the rumble strip start. Again, I don't really recommend using the rumble strips to brake here. It's kind of an inconclusive test that I've yet to really seen get consistent results. So after you brake here a little bit after the strips start, go into this turn. The rumble strips are okay to use here. And sort of like the braking zone before, going on to a straight bit. Carry more momentum in means brake early, but brake late is less momentum, kind of eye in the beholder here. I kind of go more in the middle here. Because if you kind of go in the middle, your car is going to go in the middle, and that's probably the safest route to take, because those rumble strips over to the left are kind of scary. If you go too wide on them, you're probably going to hit that wall. If you go too wide on them, they start kind of naturally carrying your car towards that wall, and you definitely don't want to hit that wall. So probably best if you play it safe here. But for the turn coming up, there kind of is no playing it safe here. I think I literally wreck on the rumble strips in practice, or qualifying, or whatever you want to call this, 50% of the time. But in order to do these, you need luck, and you need to be on the far outside here. Carry about 109 or so into the turns, kind of eye of the beholder here. If you're on a really good lap that you think you're 5/10 of a second above, I wouldn't recommend risking it to run your absolute max here. If you're 1 or 2 miles an hour off and you are like half a second ahead of your best lap, you're going to still get that lap as long as you don't mess up the last turn. But if you're right with your ghost, you're kind of going to have to push through here. Because if you just barely nick a wall, your lap is over. But if you slow down, your lap might be over too. So anyway, get as close to that wall as possible without hitting it. Easier said than done. Get close to that wall as possible without hitting it. Easier said than done. And then if you carry enough speed, your car should naturally angle its way towards that wall, but don't hit it. Easier said than done. I'm glad those rumble strips are there, because I definitely use them. And well, I did it right that time, or at least as right as I could, so I am still ahead of my ghost there, as y'all just saw there. And for this turn, brake just barely before the rumble strips start. And that's also if you get as much momentum possible off the chicane. If you mess up the chicane and get a bit and end up going, say, 100 miles an hour, once you exit the chicane, instead of like 110 or a little bit more, brake right at the rumble strips if you get full momentum a little bit before. Again, I don't really recommend using the rumble strips, but for here, unlike the run into this lap, don't go quite as wide, because you want to carry more momentum through the middle to get the best lap possible. But you do want to go on the inside here, which then will naturally carry your car to the outside, like the run in. The only difference between this and the lap up to the run in is you can go a bit wider on the run in than your actual lap, but once you've done that, you should have all the lap you're going to get, and just full throttle the line there, and then hopefully you have as good of a lap as you want to have. And well, hopefully that helped you all be able to do the lap. And also, if you want to have more information on doing these, as far as I know, this is the only actual turn-by-turn tutorial for this. But a lot of the aliens with better laps than me have YouTube channels that might very well have laps with this car and this track on there. I know It's All About Wins has a live stream where he ran here and got like a 149.7. I know Windfire has a YouTube channel where he would have raced here and ran good laps in a race, and probably some practice too. IOF Racing has a YouTube channel. Winter Circle 24 has a YouTube channel. I know Doodle Monopoly has a YouTube channel. He hasn't been on as much. And I'm sure there's a whole heck of a heap more too who's ran better times than me that I recommend y'all watch too. So maybe then you can combine the seeing what to do best with knowing what to do to attempt to get what's best, which is what I do. I mean, I sort of know what to do. I just necessarily can't do it as good as the aliens. And then maybe if you can combine both, you can get an even better lap. So I hope y'all learned something from this, and maybe, just maybe, y'all can get a better lap than I did. And, well, that's definitely not out of the realm of possibilities. I got a 150.9. The aliens are pretty cotton picking close to 148.9. Probably by the end they're going to get there. So I hope y'all enjoyed this, and as always, the settings are the same. I forgot to say that. Same settings as y'all have seen for GTR before. The only difference is transmission, which is 149 miles an hour. But anyway, as always, yeehaw!